Hello, I'm Ethan Foster, and today I want to talk to you guys about the evidence for Christianity. I myself am a Christian, and I was convinced by that with evidence after a couple of years of research. And I want to try and get you guys in the mood for starting to explore evidence for Christianity. Now, let's go back to the beginning of life according to evolution, according to scientists like Richard Dawkins, Stephen Hawking, or even back when Charles Darwin was around. So they believe in a lot of theories that could have started the first simple single-cell life, but the most common one is that lightning struck a pool of water and somehow mixed the right chemicals to create simple life, and over billions of years we evolved from that. Now, according to scientists, that happened about 3.5 billion years ago, according to simple fossils and very worn down rocks from that time period. But I say this is not the best explanation for the origin of life, and here's why. First of all, that is a very random process. Richard Dawkins, I see Christians bring up this point all the time to him, and he says that evolution is a very, not random at all, but very directed, and that doesn't make any sense because there's no one directing it if there's no God. So, I myself don't believe in macroevolution. There's two types of evolution, micro and macro, and we will get into that later on in the video, but let's and go back into the beginning of life. Now, scientists have performed experiments on cells and have discovered, let's say you poke a hole in a cell, all of the organelles and the chiroplast comes out, and you couldn't rearrange it to make a functioning living cell again. So why do we think that random processes in a very, very deadly environment with magma, an atmosphere with all carbon dioxide and no oxygen, why do we think in that environment with such random process created life, while human intelligence, by just using an already living thing, poking a hole into it and trying to rearrange it, that wouldn't work, but a random process would. So that doesn't make much sense. Now, people are always asking me how God created the earth out of nothing. Well, first of all, he's that powerful. He's God, so he can do anything. He spoke it into existence, but also people ask me if God created man, who created God. Well, that's a question that I can answer, but it doesn't make much sense because we're not eternal. We're a part of time. But God is not. He created time, so he can't be in time. You see what I'm saying? So if he created time, he cannot be in time, so he is outside of time. He's in the past, present, and future all at the same time. Doesn't make much sense, but that's because we're of time, and our brains can't wrap around it. So now let's go to the Big Bang Theory. Now, it might have or might have not happened according to Genesis. God said, "Let there be light." So I'm still researching into that, whether I believe it or not. But the main question is, who banged it? I mean, there's Stephen Hawking, who is a atheist, a very strong atheist, who helped with the Big Bang Theory, says that before the Big Bang there was nothing. No space, no time, no matter. There was just plain nothing. Then all of a sudden, this matter about the size of an atom started expanding to the size of a football, and then all of a sudden exploded and it created the early universe. And it took millions and billions of years for it to kind of get organized, and it started, and gases and planets started coming together. So if there's no God to guide this process, this is a very random, unguided process. So I don't understand how that could have happened with no God. Now, like I said earlier, I'm still debating whether I believe in the theory or not. But anyway, let's go down to what I like to call evolution. So let's go over the various proof for evolution. Fossils, similar bone structures, and DNA. Now, is this direct proof for evolution? No. Is it possible proof for evolution? Yes, it definitely is. But see, that's going with the assumption part of it. Let's see, fossils. What they tell you is that something lived a long time ago. Okay, so I believe in an old Earth. Some Christians don't. That was developed in the 1700s by James Ussher, who was a Christian back then, and developed the theory that the Earth was made in 4004 BC. But anyway, let's go back to this. But fossils show that ancient animals lived, and maybe shows how they die. But it can show when it died, but it's kind of a guess with carbon dating and all that. But that's a different subject than what we're focusing on right now. Similar bone structures. We have the same basic bones. We have the tibia, fibula, ulna, radius. We have our scapula. Dogs have it. Raccoons have it. All these animals have it. But that doesn't mean that we evolved from a common ancestor. So it's all an assumption. DNA, similar DNA, the same thing. I mean, if we have similar bone structures, then we're gonna have similar DNA because it takes similar DNA to make those bone structures the right way. But in terms of instinct, intelligence, and behavior, and what we're eating and hunting, is completely different. In terms for survival, humans are the most dominant and intelligent species ever to live on our planet, and we know that. I mean, it's not debatable at all. So, I'm ruling all of these guys out for definite proof. It is possible proof, but that they're using it as an assumption for it. Now let's keep going down. Age of the Earth. Oh, I love this one. So, most Christians believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old. It could be, but according to the evidence that I've seen, I believe that the Earth is millions, possibly billions of years old. I don't have an exact date in my mind because I don't believe you can get a particularly exact date, especially because of how long of time it is and what little evidence could have survived that long with all the climate changes, all the weather, how much everything has changed. It's very hard to believe that there's stuff that has been untouched for billions and millions of years. But yeah, so I'm not ruling out a young Earth, but I do believe that it could be an old Earth, and God, in terms of the days being 1 day, 2 days, it could have been longer than 1 day, especially since some of the things were done, like the fruit and the vegetables and all the plants on the land seems to take a lot longer than a day. But hey, God could have sped it up. Adam naming all the animals could have took a lot longer than a day to name all the millions of species on our planet. But anyway, now let's go for evidence for Jesus being the Messiah. These three things that a lot of all Christian scholars agree on because they're Christians. The tomb in which Jesus was buried was discovered empty by a group of women on the Sunday following the crucifixion. Number 2, quote, Jesus and disciples had real experiences with one whom they believed was the risen Christ. 3, quote, As a result of the preaching of these disciples, which had the resurrection at its center, the Christian church was established and grew. Now, people are always saying they could have made it up and all that, but I don't think so, and here's why. What benefit did they get from it? They were tortured, killed, they suffered horrible lives. Didn't get any benefit. They can never change the story. They never turned away after Jesus rose from the dead. So I don't see why they would lie about it. It would benefit them to go against Christianity, actually. Because Peter, crucified upside down. Paul, he had everything. He was a Pharisee. A highly educated man. He gave it all up, went to Christianity. Why? Because he saw Jesus. And Jesus was God. And so he decided to convert to Christianity because of that he was wrong, that he thought Jesus was dead. He didn't come back like the Christians were saying he did. He was persecuting the Christians, but he found out that he was wrong about that. And then he went to the Christian church, became one of the greatest missionaries of the New Testament era, wrote over half of the New Testament, his letters. And then he got killed by the Romans, beheaded. So, he really didn't have any benefits going to Christianity. And that's my point there. Please subscribe. This is my first YouTube video, so I'm really excited that I convinced my parents to be able to let me do this. If you have any questions, put it in the comments below, and I will answer them on our next video. Thank you.